It's a lovely Tuesday, the 4th of August, 2020. Good evening and welcome to News Report. My name is SALIFYANGI BWEUPE. And for you to be part of the show, please send your comments to our Facebook page, that is Live TV, as well as the number that is scrolling on your screen, that is 0976599547, for any comments and feedback as well. We also have a YouTube channel that is a Live TV channel as well. And so to kickstart the show, we get into the leading stories for this evening. First Lady Mrs. Esther Lungu flags off distribution of sanitary towels in schools. Over 200 officers who participated in the 2015 mobile voter registration still not paid. And Chonga House fire kills 7 children from the same family. And in international news, Zimbabwe, corruption is killing us. To get right into the details of the news, we get into the first story, and this one is talking about the non-clearance of the people that participated in the registration exercise. So the government has not cleared over 200 officers that took part in the 2015 mobile registration exercise on the Copperbelt. Ministry of Home Affairs spokesperson Nefas Chifuta has disclosed that 207 officers on the Copperbelt have not yet been cleared due to technical challenges, including change of account numbers. Chifuta dismisses reports suggesting that all officers who participated in the 2015 exercise have not been paid. He explains that the exact position is that government has paid all the officers that took part in the exercise from northwestern and Luapula provinces. In addition, government has also cleared a large number of officers from the Copperbelt province and has only remained with about 207 officers who could not be cleared due to some technical challenges and change of bank accounts, he said. Meanwhile, Chifuta says the ministry has warned some organizations who have tasked themselves to monitor the recently launched national mobile registration exercise. Chifuta says that the groups should disband and give space to the deployed officers to carry out the national exercise. He adds that the exercise is an ordinary operation and does not call for external monitoring by other organizations. He says the ministry has its own internal system to appraise the exercise and has a system to identify and revisit areas where issuance of identity cards should be enhanced or repeated. Chifuta charges that the ministry will not tolerate any interference in the operations of the ongoing mobile registration exercise. He further says that any person or organization who will be found obstructing registration offices shall be arrested and charged accordingly. He adds that those without birth certificates or under 5 clinic cards are also encouraged to obtain the national registration cards. They only need to prove beyond any reasonable doubt that he or she has attained the required age. So this is a story carried out by Bita FM. On this particular story, it's a good thing that the first phase of the mobile registration process has actually taken place, and we do know that a lot of people, now that the number has increased, the population, that more people will need to be registered as well. And I'm sure a lot of young people also have turned 16, and they'll be needing the national registration cards as well. And those that have not obtained the NRCs but are at the right age to participate in the 2021 general elections, I think also need to have the NRC so that they can also register for a voter's card as well. Then I have a concern also particularly to do with how is it that the government is saying there were technical problems from 2015, and this is 2020, meaning 7 years have passed since this exercise, was initially done, and that was the 2015 general elections that these mobile officers, the officers, participated in as well. So who is to blame? Is it the government, or is it the individuals that were part of this particular process? Is it that there were no follow-ups that were made with the ministry in charge, of this exercise, or maybe they were promised something, and still, even though there was a back and forth, it wasn't really, enough to really go back to and assure them to say they'll be paid at a certain time. And I think we should really get past the idea of having to do things, when time has run out, or when we need to get to the next level of things. It's very important to actually clear out everything, that could have remained in the past, that hasn't been cleared. Just allow for a clean slate, of any event that could be coming through as well. I'm sure these people that were involved, the officers that were involved in this process, also needed to feed themselves, needed to feed their families as well, and obviously were dependent on that amount from the government to actually sustain themselves as well. And there's also, a certain type of security that being, employed under government, that people feel is so much safer. You are guaranteed, obviously, of getting, your pay given to you. And obviously, my understanding is that these were young people that were eager to do this process, and they felt that the money would be given to them, in a very, or once the registration process was done away with. So, also, I think I'm wondering who is advocating, for them as well. Is there anyone that is representing them enough, to actually help them get the monies that are due or belong to them in this process as well? If there are any changes that were done because of, changing of bank accounts, or those same technicalities that have been mentioned, I think that information should have been communicated to the people as well, so that they should know their stance as well. And it's very sad that it's really taken more than 7 years to actually be at this point where someone has identified that there is, a need in this particular area, where there's certain people that were not given their dues after having done their job as well. The whole basis, or the whole importance of having a contract is, for reference, and it means that, there's an agreement between two people, and once a job has been done, obviously the other person has to get their dues for the services that have been rendered or offered, and go about with the work as well. And on the other hand, the minister also said that a spokesperson rather says that the ministry has warned some organizations who have tasked themselves to monitor the recently launched national mobile registration exercise. Well, I wouldn't blame people for wanting to have, a certain, opportunity to be a part of the process, to ensure that there's some transparency taking place as well. We are at a point where now people, I think, are so much aware about what's going on or what could be going on, and they just want to see things work the right way. They want to see the taxpayers' money, I think, work, in the right way as well. Even the people that are going to be involved in this process as well, I think, should be given their dues, what is owed to them, at a particular time, whether the agreement is before they start or during the process or after the process. I think we should not really have a repeat of what had happened in 2015 as well. And also, like I said, the decision by certain organizations to actually be a part of the process, I think, is just to do with ensuring that there's, the government at hand is, current government is accountable, for any decisions that they make as well, so that they, in as much as they're involving, engaging the local people, but the organizations want to make sure that it's being done in the right way as well. And the whole process, or the whole idea of having someone that will really look into a certain issue, so that you have witnesses in case something happens, someone can advocate for you and say, no, this thing was done, this person did their job, this role was carried out, and so standing as witnesses, we can attest that these people that have worked need to be paid, or there's a certain weakness in one area, they will identify that. And if it needs to be worked on, then it will be worked on. I think the government now should really appreciate anything that comes, to work hand in hand with the community as well, when it comes to collaborating with maybe private institutions or collaborating with the general public as well in each and everything that they do. I think the whole process also, even if we have, the current or the ruling government in power, they will also may want to continue in, ruling or being in government as well. So if they need or if they want to continue, I think it's very important to actually work hand in hand with the people that are on the ground, and this is the consumers as well. So instead of having to throw threats, I think we should, or the government in itself should really just embrace these ideas that come about and see how best that they can work more for the people or serve the people, and so that there's sustainability in each and every sector of the economy as well. And so, like I said, it is very sad that, there are threats that are being thrown around. And so, Mr. Chifota said that any person or organization who will be found obstructing registration officers shall be arrested and charged accordingly. Instead, these organizations that want to be a part of it should have been called, and, could have been, a meeting held to talk about how best, they can monitor the registration process, as opposed to just having to threaten them. We have seen a lot of these stories that are flying around that have received one or two threats from the people that are in power. So please, I appeal to the government. I think it's very important that we work, or you work, with the people as well. So into our next story. So this is to do with menstrual hygiene and management as well. As we all know, the girl child is quite vulnerable when it comes to certain areas. The girl child is a strong individual. She's strong, but the process of growing up really comes about with a whole lot of sometimes negativity from the people around. Sometimes there'll be some backlash. Sometimes the girl child will be embarrassed because of the natural process that has to take place as well, and also to avoid a certain amount of bullying as well. So in this particular story, the first lady, Esther Lungu, has said the lack of menstrual hygiene management is an impediment to the social and academic progression of a girl child. The first lady has observed with concern that the lack of adequate menstrual hygiene has negatively affected social and academic progression of the girl child. Mrs. Lungu has since placed continued support to adolescent female learners in the area of menstrual hygiene, even as they aspire to attain the highest level of education for the development of the nation at large. She was speaking today when she flagged off the distribution of 730,000 sanitary towels to be distributed to schools countrywide, which has been donated by DIO, a Japanese corporation. Mrs. Lungu said research indicates that the ability for the girls to manage their menstrual periods is affected by a number of factors, including knowledge, beliefs, and access to affordable as well as hygienic sanitary materials and disposal options, and urged the nation to stop prompting myths about menstruation hygiene products without substantiating their assertions. So Mrs. Lungu thanked the Japanese government for the donation, adding that such partnerships are critical for girls and the country as a whole. The First Lady has further acknowledged that provision of appropriate menstrual hygiene management contributes to the desirable learning outcomes for the girl child. And speaking at the same event, Minister of General Education, Dr. Dennis Wachinga, disclosed that the ministry is undertaking several other interventions, which include water sanitation and hygiene, menstrual hygiene management, school feeding programs, and keeping girls in school, all in a quest to promote the welfare of learners, particularly girls. And Japanese ambassador to Zambia, Mr. Mizuchi Ruta, says Zambia should not lose the time and the chance to make use of its full potential of half of the population, namely women. Mr. Yuta pledged Japanese commitment to contribute to Zambia's efforts towards achieving sustainable development, especially in the education sector, as it plays an important role. According to the statistics from the Ministry of General Education, an average of 12 hours in a month and 36 hours in a year is lost by adolescent female learners due to lack of menstrual hygiene management. And so we have a video.
It really gives me great pleasure to have been given this opportunity to flag off the distribution of sanitary towels to schools for our adolescent female learners. This campaign, Your Excellency, is very critical for our girls and also our country. I fully support this initiative, which is very close to my heart, and I firmly believe in the significance of empowering girls, not only through creating a culture shift, but also raising awareness about menstrual hygiene. The provision of appropriate menstrual hygiene management, which includes sanitary materials, contributes to the achievement of desirable learning outcomes in the education of the girl child. We cannot overemphasize this evidence that reveals adolescent female learners missing school during their menstrual periods. Furthermore, some learners that experience menstrual accidents end up dropping out of school altogether. This is a huge impediment in the education of the girl child, and that is why practicing appropriate menstrual hygiene among girls goes a long way in facilitating the demand side of education provision, as it motivates them to attend school regularly.
The initiative of Daido Paper Corporation to donate 730,000 sanitary towels that will be distributed to schools in all 10 provinces of Zambia. This will certainly enhance the chance of girls to pursue education by reducing the burdens of the family, a problem that was addressed, by the way, when I paid a courtesy visit to the Minister of Gender, Honorable Minister Mrs. Elizabeth Piri, earlier this year. Furthermore, I would like to reiterate that education is the key to sustainable development. As Japan remains committed to contributing to Zambian government's efforts towards achieving the sustainable development of this country, the education sector has always played an important role and will remain so.
Veterinary school at the University of Zambia was essentially sponsored by the Japanese government. And here where we are, this National Science Center, is another major symbolic milestone indicating the long-standing partnership between the Japanese government and the people of Zambia. So we are really grateful to the Japanese government. So these sanitary towels are just a continuation of the program of cooperation between Zambia and Japan. Effective menstrual hygiene management is essential for the attainment of desirable education outcomes for girls. This is clearly underscored in the 7th National Development Plan. Your Honor, this consignment will go a long way in alleviating the difficulties which our female learners face in their quest to complete their education in schools.
So that was a clip showing the First Lady, that is Mrs. Esther Lungu, as well as the Minister of General Education, Mr. Dennis Wanchinga, and Mr. Mizuchi Ryuta, who is the Japanese ambassador, and they were talking about, the importance of menstrual hygiene as well. I think we're at a point where, this topic, this issue is, it's no longer taboo to openly talk about, the issues to do with menstrual hygiene, especially when it comes to, sanitation and hygiene. education for a girl child as well. And I'm really glad that the First Lady has really taken, that step in distributing the sanitary, pads also, and openly talking about it. So it doesn't matter whether you're talking about it in front of men or in front of women as well, because this is something that, it's a norm. It's something that affects the girl child as well, and it cannot really be kept a secret anymore. And so we find that in most areas where, we have girls that are very vulnerable, they'll not really be able to afford getting sanitary pads, or they do not have sensitization on how to actually maintain their hygiene as well. And so this, like the First Lady mentioned, will actually be able to motivate the girl child, and obviously will improve the attendance of classes as well. And I'm saying improving because it might not really prevent the girl child from missing a class, because sometimes it could be excruciating as well in that regard. But in line with obviously maintaining and ensuring that the girl child receives all the necessary education, I think is something that will be sustained by this move as well. And so two things I think to note from this. I think really we need to ensure that sanitary pads are made available everywhere, including the rural areas, whether rural, whether peri-urban, whether urban areas as well. Just ensure that there is enough sanitary pads as well, and especially that most of it, the vulnerability of it or the bullying happens in schools. So to ensure that every school, every local school has some sanitary pads that they're able to distribute to the young girls as well. And the second thing is obviously to make the sanitary pads a bit more affordable for everyone. It shouldn't be something that should be gotten at a high price, because we didn't ask for this. So at the end of the day, I think it needs to really be made affordable for a girl child to be able to buy or afford on their own. That's if the school is unable to distribute or running a bit short. So we'll take our first break and we'll be back with more stories after this. Stay tuned.
Masenza bwanji mama. Chumende sako na iwe. Pale pako ma 20 apolo ma 5 kwa jari.
Mama ko ino sasijira kumuzonda mazisi.
Mako iyo songa chinjeko kubantu abale ndio top kwana na 5 hours mamene bano leyo.
Kamba nayo.
That is why you need to get an e-token, sir. It is faster and easier.
What? The e-tolling card is a National Road Fund agency card. So all you have to do is just credit it in Dalama and you'll be able to use it per token monga paniso. To avoid the inconveniences quarter, so you have to start looking for ama 20 kwa chakula cherusha bantu so.
Introducing the electronic toll card. It's easy easier, faster, and secure. Access the e-toll cards from all toll gates across the country or the agency's head office in Lusaka at only 30 kwacha.
This message is brought to you by the National Road Fund Agency, a sustainable road fund.
Good evening. If you're just joining us, you are watching News Report with me, SALIFYANGI BWEUPE. And if you're watching us on your TV stations, you're catching us on your Topstar channel 112, as well as our Facebook live feed if you're watching us from Facebook, and also our YouTube channel that is Live TV channel as well. For your comments and contributions, you can send them to our Facebook feed or the number that is on your TV screens. That is 0976 599 547. Into the next story, 7 children aged between 1 and 6 years from the same family in Chongwe district have been burned to death after their house caught fire last night. This occurred on 3rd August 2020 at about 20 hours at Shisholeka village. Chief Commissioner in Chongwe district said. Police spokesperson Esther Katonga in a statement said the fire allegedly engulfed the house when Lawrence Muzelewa, 43, the owner of the house, was pouring petrol in a container which later spilled on a brazier. Muzelewa and a 12-year-old Gift Mativenga survived with burns on their faces, hands, and legs. Katonga says the grandfather to the victim, 74-year-old Meshek Njovu, reported the matter and identified the deceased as Meshek Njovu, Magi Mativenga, Imelda Moyo, Mervis Moyo, and Rebecca Mativenga. Others include Amon Mativenga and Harriet Mativenga. All the victims of the same family are aged between 1 and 6. Katongo says Muzelewa is admitted to Chongwe District Hospital, while Gift Mativenga is in Levi Teaching Hospital. The bodies of the deceased persons are in Chongwe District Hospital mortuary awaiting post-mortem. This is a very, very sad development as well. I do hope that, the 2 individuals that are in hospital recover and, may the souls of the lost children rest in peace. So in the next story, the United Party for National Development Miputu Ward Councillor in Masaiti district of the Copperbelt province has rescinded his resignation from the opposition party. Hossein Mabeti will continue as a UPND councillor for Miputu, according to Provincial Copperbelt Elisha Matambo. Matambo told a media briefing today, Monday morning, that the councillor has... I'll read that again. Matambo told the media briefing on Monday morning that the councillor has since returned to the party. He has assured Mabeti that the UPND is a party that will stand with the Zambian people and its councillors and members of parliament. Matambo, who received the councillor, has further accused the ruling party into panic buying of councillors to cause unnecessary by-elections when the country is facing economic hardships. Meanwhile, Mabeti has apologized to the electorate and the opposition party for being duped into betraying their vote on him. Mabeti says the statement he made was just forced on him by the PF. Rumor is that he was promised a TV set if he resigned from the UPND. We have a clip.
Who are here with us to come and tell the nation and the entire world the truth about this corrupt regime, the PF. I also want to salute all the officials. I recognize the presence of the Deputy National Chairperson, Uncle Major. I recognize the presence of the councillors who are here from Masaiti, the officials from Masaiti, and then other NMC officials. This morning, we are here to tell the Zambians and the entire world of the evil intentions and the motives of this corrupt regime. When we say that PF is corrupt, some people, including the PF president, says, where is the evidence? We wanted to put it very clear that this is a corrupt government. This is a government when children and other people are dying in hospitals without medicine, they are busy creating unnecessary by-elections by buying off our councillors.
Shame.
They started with Northwestern Province, went to Western Province. Now they are busy buying councillors in the Lumberland of the Copper Belt. They went to the extent of buying councillors, deceiving them in Ilfwanyama, where 5 councillors were deceived at a go, creating by-elections in 5 wards. It was actually 6 wards. Thank God that one of the councillors rescinded this decision and came back. He went to Masaiti, did the same. They went to Mpongu, did the same. They are now trying to terrorize.
That is UPND ward councillor, and also Hosini Mabeti, announcing that he has rescinded his resignation, from the opposition party as well. I really do not know what, led him to actually move on, to the ruling party as well. But true, like we said in the report, that rumor has it that he was promised a television set. So my opinion over this matter is that sometimes instead of really running away from certain responsibilities of certain problems or issues, whatever you would be facing, I think the easy thing that you can do for yourself, is to actually work on trying to fix the problem as opposed to trying to run away from it. He probably has his own reasons for choosing to stay, in UPND as opposed to moving on to the PF government as well. And so I think this is a time when everyone needs to just come up with, sustainable solutions that will benefit the people in their constituency and the nation at large as well. And so in our next story, the National Congress Party President Pastor Peter Chanda says Zambians should vote for PF in 2021 because there is no need to change government. We have this clip.
The Patriotic Front and for the Zambian people, the chance. There is no cause for change of government. We are seeing for ourselves the developmental projects that are happening. We are seeing that Zambia is heading in a different direction.
Yes.
Giving President Lungu the mandate from 2021 to 2026, Zambia will be a better place.
Yes,
Thank you.
How do you anticipate if in an event that there is any would you?
Well, I want to state and affirm to the Zambian people that don't try and error. Government, you don't try, or you don't do try and error for governance. So there is no cause for a wind of change.
Yes.
There is no cause for the wind of change. So any other opposition leader, for us we understand that at the moment, it is not a time for us opposition leaders, it's a time for the Patriotic Front.
Yes.
And let's allow President
to build the country.
Now that's a man that should obviously join the ruling party, as he said that everyone should vote for the PF government so that there is continuity in the ruling government as well. But then aside from that, probably him having his own party feels that it could be a vision that he had, that the party that is in power should continue to rule until a time when its time will come to an end and his party will probably take over. But anyway, that's just me. We'll go on a break and we'll come back with more stories after this. Stay tuned.
That is why you need to get an e-talk at SAR. It is faster and easier.
The e-tolling card is a National Road Fund Agency card. So all you have to do is just credit it in Dalama and you'll be able to use it per token Monga Panuso. To avoid the inconveniences, so where you have to start looking for a 20 chocolate cherusha banso.
Introducing the electronic toll card. It's easier, faster, and secure. Access the e-toll cards from all toll gates across the country or the agency's head office in Lusaka at only 30 kwacha.
This message is brought to you by the National Road Fund Agency, a sustainable road fund.
Welcome back. You are watching News Report with me, SALIFYANGI BWEUPE. In our next story, a Patriotic Front cadre has been slapped with a 2-year jail term by the Lusaka Magistrates Court for slapping Minister of Justice Given Luvinda. In his judgment, Chief Resident Magistrate Lamek Mwale said the assault on Luvinda during the execution of his duty as a member of Parliament was barbaric. This is a matter where Martin Mambo, 38, a driver of Kalingalinga Township, assaulted Luvinda on July 12, 2019 and occasioned him actual bodily harm. Mambo was also jointly charged with Patrick Muwanga, Major Chansa, Moses Mulenga, and Goodson Mwangi, who are businessmen, for proposing violence against Luvinda on the same date when they allegedly said, "We will beat you next time you step your foot in Kawata Market." The 5 were acquitted of proposing violence, but Mambo was found with a case to answer for allegedly slapping Luvinda. When the matter came up for judgment, Magistrate Mwale convicted Mambo as the state had proven the case of assault beyond reasonable doubt. Magistrate Mwale found that it was in fact that Luvinda was at Kawata Market on the material day, performing his duties as Member of Parliament, and that it was a fact that he was assaulted at the market, as confirmed by a witness and the medical report that was issued to him. He said that he was satisfied that Mambo was at Kawata Market and assaulted Luvinda, contrary to his claim that he was not at the said premises. Magistrate Mwale said the possibility of mistaken identity had been precluded as a convict was identified by Luvinda and his special assistant during the commotion and the identification parade. He said the witnesses could not only pick the accused as their assailant when there were many people to point at, therefore he could not accept the defense by Mambo that he was recovering from tuberculosis on the date of the incident, as it was an afterthought. The court said no medical report was produced before court to prove that Mambo was sick when Luvinda was slapped, and that the defense launched by the convict was a deliberate ploy clearly meant to absolve himself from the offense charged. During mitigation, Mambo's lawyer Agrippa Malando said the former was at the court's mercy, and he prayed that it exercises its discretion and have leniency on him, as he was a family man with 4 children who look up to him, and sending him to prison would aggravate the situation. Malando asked the court to impose a non-custodial sentence on Mambo to avoid congestion to avoid congesting prisons, and that the latter had learned his lesson. In his judgment, Magistrate Mwale said he noted with regret the high prevalence of politically motivated violence and intolerance, and that Mambwe's physical attack on Luwindo was not retrogressive but barbaric and African. I would be failing in my duties if I allow such kind of violence to go unabated, especially violence on an elected representative of the people occasioned during the performance of his parliamentary functions, said Magistrate Mwale. I find this to be aggravating circumstances. In order to deter would-be offenders, it is a firm view of this court that the convict deserves a custodial sentence. I therefore sentence the convict to 24 months imprisonment with hard labor, effective today. During his testimony, Luwindo tearfully told Magistrate Mwale that being assaulted for performing functions of which he was elected was extremely painful, and he has not managed to recover from the shock of humiliation because he had served the people of Kawata with all his diligence and honesty. Luwindo, who broke down as he gave his testimony, wondered who was safe if a minister like him with state security 24/7 could be assaulted. It was extremely painful to go through such experience. I felt pain on the right side of my face. I felt a shock and very hot in my face. And so this story was monitored through massed newspaper. So on this particular story, I think we had brought this story to the table as well. And in the previous, court hearing, apparently Mambwe could not attend the court session because he had fallen ill on that particular day. But now, the court has decided to sentence him to 24 months in prison, and that is serving 2 years in prison with hard labor as well. And obviously, this serves, as an example to everyone that is, being violent. This is a whole member of parliament that, was assaulted, and I do understand where the minister is coming from to say he had to face a lot of humiliation. I think there are better ways in which certain issues could be handled as well. And the fact that, the magistrate has, decided not to really show favor by virtue of Mambwe being a PF member, but has decided to give the right sentencing, pertaining to the offense that he had made as well. And I hope this will serve as an example, and many will, refrain from being, violent as well. And the magistrate said that this action was very barbaric and African as well. I think especially as Zambians, we're known for being very peaceful people, and the fact that we are a Christian nation, I think we should always lead by example as well. And to have to go to prison and leave 4 children and a wife behind to fend for themselves, I think is rather unfair for something that could have been avoided as well. If you feel you are getting angry, you're not happy about something, try to find the right channels in which you can actually approach the matter and come up with solutions that will serve you and the other person as well. I think maturity in this case is very, very much required as well. Anyway, in international news, the tensions in Zimbabwe are rising with the arrest of several high-profile activists who attempted to hold anti-government protests. Opposition groups rallied against alleged government corruption and worsening economic crisis that has seen inflation balloon above 700%. The country's president has accused these groups of trying to overthrow his power and has hit back with force. Sky News Africa correspondent John Sparks reports on the chaos from the capital, Harare.
The people who run Zimbabwe are sending its citizens a powerful message. Dissent in any form will not be tolerated. Here, residents of a township in the capital, Harare, were beaten for sitting outside. The government of Emerson Mnangagwa has shut the country down after opposition groups called for protests against corruption and economic mismanagement. But the president saw it differently, accusing critics of insurrection.
Bye-bye, Darby, bye-bye. Bye-bye.
However, a small number did take to the streets and dusty tracks, and there were some who were brave enough to show their faces. like award-winning author Tsitsi Dangaremga. She was bundled into a police truck by armed officers shortly after this photo was taken. Our team caught up with the writer, who's been nominated for this year's Booker Prize after she was released on bail. And she told us she has the constitutional right to fight for change.
I feel that probably all Zimbabweans want a better life for all Zimbabweans and the people who live here. And I think that that's a very right motive to have. It's a good thing to live by and to work for.
Dozens of government critics have been arrested, including the spokesperson of the main opposition party, the MDC.
Riot police have arrived.
Fadzai Mahera broadcast her own arrest before being charged with inciting public violence and breaching the rules on COVID-19.
It's an indictment on who we've become as a society in Zimbabwe, that people cannot step outside their homes and protest against all the injustices that we see. The fact that corruption is killing us, the fact that we've got a hunger crisis, the fact that our public health system is on its knees. If we're criminalizing the very fact of speaking out, that cannot be the Zimbabwe that we're after. It means we've got a very long way to go.
Emmerson Mnangagwa took power in 2017, promising economic growth and world-class public services. But he's fast becoming associated with the worst practices of his predecessor, the long-time dictator Robert Mugabe.
There are injuries all over if you could just pull this up. But I think
a pattern of arbitrary arrests and abductions is now well established. Last year, we interviewed union leader Obert Masawera, who said he was kidnapped and beaten by agents of the state when he called for an increase in teachers' pay. It seems acts of protest have been officially banned by a paranoid government determined to suppress dissent. Journalist Hopewell Chinono was arrested after revealing kickbacks in the health department. But his voice, and those of many others, will not be silenced. John Sparks, Sky News.
It feels like at the end of the day, from Cape to Cairo, Africa has, the same concerns based around, equal, opportunities and obviously improvement in the running of affairs of the countries as well. And so that is a story that's coming from Zimbabwe, where, some tension has risen and, some arrests were made, where several high-profile activists, were arrested because they attempted to hold an anti-government process as well. So we still see a case of police brutality, and my hope is moving forward we just find a way in which there is some kind of like a dialogue between the government and the people as well, to really just find solutions that will instead unite the people other than having to divide the people. So on that particular story, we come to the end of today's edition of the news report. We will go through the leading stories for this evening. First Lady Mrs. Esther Lungu flags off distribution of sanitary towels in schools. Over 200 officers who participated in the 2015 mobile voter registration still not paid. And Chongwa house fire kills 7 children from the same family. In international news, coming out of Zimbabwe, corruption is killing us. This has been SALIFYANGI on behalf of the entire production crew saying good night and God bless, and continue watching Live TV.